Tonight on KGW News, the truth revealed about one of the deadly 2020 wildfires. And it's not what many believed. Plus,
Jim and Fritz, you took away Kara's body and her dignity, but you can never take away her soul.
a killer who turned on his own roommate faces her family in court. Then, a warning for parents after a man is caught trying to solicit several teenagers on their way to school.
It's scary, that's the reality of today.
And later, Ducks fans, it's your time to shine. As March Madness gets underway, how you could vote to take over the Seattle skyline. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. We begin tonight with a major revelation in connection with one of the 2020 wildfires that devastated parts of Oregon, with state officials determining that it was not caused by downed power lines. Alma McCarty went through their report this evening. So, Alma, what have you learned?
Well, David, Oregon Department of Forestry investigators found that embers from an already burning wildfire likely sparked the Santiam Canyon fire, which burned nearly 200,000 acres and killed 5 people. It comes years after a jury decided to hold the power company financially responsible for the damage.
The 2020 Labor Day fires in the Santiam Canyon left an indelible mark on those who lived through it.
Through my Marine Corps career and my career in the Bureau of Prisons, I've seen some things. Nothing has affected me like this did.
Hundreds of homes and buildings burned to the ground. Families lost everything to the flames. 5 people died. Now, years later, a new report for the Oregon Department of Forestry reveals investigators did not find any evidence that reported power line ignitions had contributed to the overall spread of the Santiam fire.
What's going on there?
We have a down tree that took out power lines, and we have live lines on the ground, and we have a fire.
Although ODF says there were several smaller fires in the area started from downed lines, locals and fire departments got those out before they spread. The report states that another dozen fires that caused most of the damage were likely caused by embers from the Beachy Creek fire, which had been burning weeks before Labor Day. In 2023, Pacific Power, which maintains the power lines in the area, was found negligent and liable for the Labor Day wildfires, including the Santiam fire and 3 others, and was ordered to pay millions to those who lost their homes. It's not clear yet how this new report will impact ongoing appeals in that case. For its part, Pacific Power said Wednesday that the report supports its long-standing assertion that electrical equipment was not the cause of widespread property damage. Meantime, attorney Cody Byrne, who represents residents in the lawsuit, told KGW in part the jury found that Pacific Corp's negligence was a substantial factor in burning the Santiam Canyon, and that Pacific Corp acted willfully and recklessly, and that ODF released this report despite acknowledging that it was unable to analyze key evidence.
Now, ODF did point out limitations in its report. First, that the U.S. Forest Service wouldn't allow their employees to be interviewed. And second, ODF was unable to analyze electrical equipment and power line hardware in the Gates Mills City area because Pacific Power was repairing and restoring power and removing an unknown amount of damaged equipment. David?
Yeah, so perhaps new clarity and more questions. Thank you, Alma. Okay, let's take you outside on this Wednesday night where we've seen some rain showers return to the valley, and we're also calling for a weather impact alert in the Cascades. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino joining us now to talk about what we can expect when it comes to fresh snow. Hey there, Matt.
You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, they say, David, and this picture tells you what's going on at Timberline right now. It's snowing and it's blowing. It's going to be a stormy ride through the next couple days. 26 degrees up at Timberline, though it's really not that bad. Even at the top of the Magic Mile, they're running about 25, 30 miles an hour, which by, Mount Hood standards isn't really all that intense, but there has been snow. There's more snow coming overnight into the morning hours tomorrow and then after that. So, yeah, we hoisted the weather impact alert for Thursday and Friday. Heavy snow, there's going to be low visibility at times. Now, I'm talking about the passes here, so make sure you've got chains or traction tires and that you've got some extra supplies in your vehicle. just in case, because the roads are going to be a little bit difficult to navigate up there over the next couple of days. You can see the constant snowfall in the Cascades, while over the valleys, the precipitation is broken up into showers, yet they all congeal up over the mountains, and it keeps it going there. We even have a lightning strike off the coast here just a little bit ago, indicating how dynamic this weather pattern is right now. So we will continue with showers on and off overnight tonight. There's the lightning strike for you. And then tomorrow we go back to steady rain and heavier snowfall as the next weather system comes in. We'll easily get up to 20 inches on Mount Hood, and higher elevations, say 5,000 feet and above, we'll get up to 30 inches or so. So the winter storm warning will continue for about 24 hours from right now. So the headlines look like this. We've got the winter storm warning through tomorrow. Heavy snowfall, additional 30 inches above 5,000 feet, very possible, and the hazardous travel conditions in the passes, David. But we also have a big warm-up next week. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Hey, dynamic, a great way to put it. Thank you, Matt. In an update, justice today for the family of an Oregon City woman killed in what one detective called one of the most horrific murders he has seen in his entire career. A warning, the details in this case are disturbing. Kara Taylor was last seen alive in July 2023. Jamin Fritsch, her roommate at the time, was the one who reported her missing. Fritsch eventually admitted that he murdered Taylor and dismembered her body. Police found some of her remains at the Coffin Butte landfill in Benton County. Fritsch was sentenced today to life in prison after the court heard from Taylor's husband.
Jamin Fritsch, you took away Kara's body and her dignity, but you can never take away her soul. She was a kind and loving person who would give everything that she had to help those less fortunate.
Fritsch will have a chance at parole in 25 years. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, Portland fire crews rescued a person this evening from a minivan that had apparently fallen off an elevated parking structure and onto an SUV in a parking lot below. This was near Northeast Sandy and 83rd. No one was inside the SUV. First responders had to cut open the back of the minivan and take the person inside of the hospital. No word on what led up to that incident. A 14-month-old girl is in the hospital with life-threatening injuries after she and her mother were hit by a car this morning while out on a walk. Mom is also seriously hurt. This was just before 7 on Southeast Division near 164th. Portland police say the driver stayed at the scene. At this point, there have been no citations or arrests. And a Portland man is suing a Washington pet food company after he says raw chicken contaminated with bird flu killed his cat. Hansen says his 4-year-old cat Kira got sick after eating the food from Wild Coast Pet Food and was euthanized. Hansen is suing for about $8,000, which includes the cost of vet bills. He claims the company should have known about the risks of bird flu in raw poultry and acted more quickly to prevent harm.
And I'm not happy that if they were alerted on the 7th of February that my cat did test positive, I'm very disappointed that it wasn't recalled immediately.
Wild Coast Pet Foods recalled several raw food products and switched to cooked chicken. We reached out to them about Hansen's lawsuit, but haven't yet heard back. Developing tonight in Clark County, deputies have arrested a 21-year-old man they say offered 3 teenage girls money for sex and while they were on their way to school. It turns out the suspect is already out of jail. Daisy Caballero has this story.
It's scary, that's the reality of today.
Parents in Vancouver are angry and scared after the Clark County Sheriff's Office says 21-year-old Alexander Wrightbrock offered money for sex to 3 different teenage girls Monday morning.
Fortunately, we had a couple of the victims were very smart and they were able to take their phones out, get some photos of the vehicle, which kind of led us to being able to make an arrest.
Sergeant Chris Skidmore with the Clark County Sheriff's Office says photos of a white Nissan Versa that quickly made rounds on social media allowed detectives to act and make an arrest later that night.
Credit to the deputies for being able to kind of gather the information that they needed to be able to establish the probable cause. The arrest was made for communicating with a minor for immoral purposes.
But according to jail officials, Wrightbrock was released on Tuesday. School officials tell us Wrightbrock targeted teen girls at different schools, including Heritage High School and another in the Battleground School District. The Evergreen School District sent an email to parents thanking the students and families for reporting the incident.
It's definitely something that we have to teach our kids about and make sure that they're knowledgeable on.
Eliza Smith is a mother of 2 young girls and, like many, found out about the incident on a Vancouver mom Facebook page, sharing one of her friends knew
one of the 3 victims.
I think he offered her $50 cash for some sexual favors. I was very concerned.
Smith is now thinking of the best way to bring up the topic about the do's and don'ts on talking to strangers to her 10 and 13-year-old daughters.
Especially with our young girls, that they know how to, keep themselves safe when approached by people like this.
Daisy Caballero, KGW News.
Tonight, the White House confirms President Trump is set to sign an executive order tomorrow calling for a shutdown of the Department of Education. Now, while actually closing the department would take an act of Congress, the administration could make it impossible for employees to carry out their work. Now, earlier today, educators in Vancouver held a walk-in event at Roosevelt Elementary condemning federal cuts. The teachers say they're worried about the impact on low-income students and those with disabilities. The Department of Education, by the way, distributes money to districts to help those students. They say the school is already dealing with funding challenges that are hurting students, including cuts to language and learning specialists. President Trump says he wants states to take over education policy. Speaking of cuts, new at 11, residents and some lawmakers gathered in Northeast Portland tonight to push back against proposed cuts to Medicaid. They rallied at Holiday Park, calling on Republicans to preserve the program that some 80 million Americans rely on. Now, nothing has been decided yet, but House Republicans have ordered the committee that oversees Medicaid and other programs to cut $880 billion in spending over a decade. That's something the Congressional Budget Office says will be impossible without cuts to Medicaid.
This is a giant catastrophe waiting to happen, and I think that these cuts are so ill-intentioned and so devastating to our most vulnerable folks.
Republicans supporting the cuts say it's not about taking away benefits from those who need them, but about rooting out fraud and abuse. Now, some are proposing a work requirement for those receiving Medicaid. President Trump has said neither Medicare nor Medicaid will be cut. New tonight, environmentalists and neighborhood activists are keeping up the fight against Zenith Energy. The company runs a fuel export terminal on the Willamette in Portland, and while city officials granted them a land use permit earlier this year, City Council approved a new resolution tonight that questions that approval. Now, those opposing the terminal have voiced concerns for years, arguing bringing crude oil through the city is a safety issue.
The present danger of transloading crude oil through Portland to foreign export markets, and we need to do something now before oil spills into a community or a river, and it is very difficult to clean up at that point.
The resolution tonight calls for an investigation into Zenith's operations to make sure it's in compliance. It also demands the mayor pause any more actions related to the company. Zenith has told city officials it is committed to giving up fossil fuels and adds it will be a key piece in Oregon's effort to switch to renewable fuels.